they stay in the shadows. And so this is the national security of the United States. It's also about the national economy of our country. Poll after poll says that Americans want undocumented aliens to come forth and pay their fair share of taxes. Well, we want them to come forth and pay their fair share of taxes. As a matter of fact, many of them use taxpayer ID numbers to do exactly that, but many of them do not. And so ultimately, by giving them the opportunity to contribute to our economy, by being able to come forth and to participate in a temporary status as they wait a long process to maybe become a permanent resident of the United States, we not only pursue the national security of the United States, we contribute to the economy of the country. And speaking of that economy, I hope that all Americans will be honest with ourselves. This morning, if you had breakfast and you had fruit for breakfast, it was probably picked by the bent back of an immigrant worker. If you had chicken for dinner last night, it was probably plucked by the cut-up hands of an immigrant worker. If you have someone who is infirmed in your family, probably their daily needs are being attended to by an immigrant worker. If, in fact, you look at the industries that are so important to the revival of our economy, in tourism, in the restaurant industry, in wave after wave, in the agriculture industry, which even in this economy cannot get people to go into the field and pull the crops that ultimately feed our families. They are being done by immigrant workers. And also, it's amazing to me that when we have someone like Lance Corporal Jose Gutierrez, who was not even a citizen of the United States, but was the first soldier with a United States uniform to die in Iraq, that we can say that individuals are worthy of fighting for and dying for America, but not ultimately having the opportunity to have a chance to become a permanent resident of the United States. And finally, Arizona is only the ultimate coordination of the challenge we have before us, the epicenter now of a great concern in immigrant communities. You know, there are over 200 cases of U.S. citizens, United States citizens, and legal permanent residents who have been caught up in immigration raids and who have been detained unlawfully in violation of the Constitution and their rights, many detained for months. Months. Who among us would be happy? Who among us would be happy if we were detained simply because of the way we look, the manner in which we speak, or the color of our skin? Who among us would be waiting for the counsels of patience and delay? Latinos and others do not believe that they are second-class citizens in this country. I have nothing in my possession that proves I'm a United States citizen. I don't carry my birth certificate, born here in the United States. I don't carry my passport, and I certainly don't intend to be stopped in Arizona or any other place in the country and suggest that somehow I am a suspect classification. We understand the history of not only this country, but the history in the world. When one group of people become a suspect class, when one group of people are blamed for all the ills of the nation, history has taught us that that has a sad ending. We cannot let that happen here in the greatest country on the face of the earth. It is not who we are as a people. It is not who we are as a nation. And so, our friends on the other side of the aisle, I beseech you to join us. To join us. This framework has a lot of your ideas. It has things that maybe I wouldn't have written. But I understand what is necessary in order to achieve comprehensive immigration reform. But we cannot have two different classes of citizens in this country. We cannot have those who are detained unlawfully, even though they are U.S. citizens, because they are caught up in this greater class of people who somehow become suspect. And so that's what's at stake here. This is not a partisan question. This is about the national security of the United States. It's about the national economy of this country, and it is ultimately the preservation of the Constitution, because when I can become a second-class citizen, there is a road in which you become a second-class citizen, and that is not something we can accept.
Questions? vote, and if they don't do it, what's going to happen?
I don't think it would be wise for us to set an arbitrary deadline. We are patient. The Hispanics in Nevada have been very, very patient and around the country. So we don't want to set an arbitrary deadline. We just think that it's time that we stop the nonsense. And what I mean by nonsense is this. How can you reasonably answer people around the country who are saying, fix the system, and then they won't let us fix the system? So we're saying to our Republican colleagues, and I think you've noted the tone here today, we are inviting them to work with us. It's simply an invitation. It's one we think is very timely, and we think they should step over and help us.
Mr. Leader, the President last night said that he pour cold water on this. He said there may not be an appetite in Congress for this, and he said he doesn't want to push immigration just for the sake of politics.
Well, I have not spoken to the President about this recently, but I do know that he's given us a heavy load here. We're in one of the assignments he's given us to work on Wall Street reform. We finished health care. We've done the national service legislation, and we've done, I mean, I could do the whole list of stuff. So we've had a lot to do. But I say to the President and all the people around him, this is an issue that he will join us. I know this is an issue he thinks is very important. And I don't know in what context the statement was last night. But we can do a lot of things here. We can do more than one thing at once.
Yes. To the White House, and they clarified or put his remarks in context, and they're saying that he is committed to having a bipartisan solution this very year. So my question to you is, if your proposal, your framework, incorporates Republican ideas, why not move forward with an actual bill and put it in the calendar?
My conversations with the President have been similar to what you have just stated. Every time I've ever talked to him or people closely associated with him in the White House, he recognizes this as an issue. He talked about it in the campaign, and I know that he will work with us on this issue. And as I said, we're reaching out to our Republican friends. This is an issue that they need to help us with because we're willing to compromise, but you can't compromise with yourself. You have to have somebody to compromise with.
Do you support San Francisco's boycott of Arizona?
I don't know about San Francisco's boycott of... Oh, I don't know anything about that. I don't represent California.
You're better off.
Well, San Francisco is an island unto itself, but the question was, do I support its boycott? And apparently before the Board of Supervisors, there's a resolution for the city to boycott any business with which the city carries out with any firm in Arizona. I do not think that is a smart thing to do. I think the way we handle this is the way it has to be handled, which is a comprehensive bill passed by the federal government. And I don't think boycotts or things of that nature really help. They just polarize people.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Senator Graham has said that this could basically kill any hope of doing a climate change bill. Does that concern you? And at any time has Senator Graham suggested he could bring Republican votes for a climate bill if immigration were off the table?
There's no one in this Congress, in the House or the Senate, who believes in doing something about our environment which is under attack more than I do. We need to do comprehensive energy legislation as soon as we can. I don't know how my friend Lindsey Graham can say this kills energy. It's up to him. That's why today I specifically said the questions we're directing, the statements we're directing, are not directed toward Lindsey Graham. There's 40 other Republicans. Why Lindsey Graham? So if he cannot logically use immigration as an excuse to not help with energy.
Senator Reid, I just want to clarify, are you committed to putting this bill on the floor this year and forcing a cloture vote if you otherwise don't have Republican support?
We are looking for Republican support. Republican support. All of you know the rules around here. They've been pushed into my mind. You have to be able to count to 60 around here. And so talk about getting a bill on the floor, unless we get Republican help, we're not going to have a bill on the floor. Senator Schumer, thank goodness you got a question.
You've been actually talking to Republicans, quite a handful of them. So what's their reaction?
Well, when we, for instance, today I was with Judge